Hello everyone, and welcome to the Future of Dogs podcast, a place for the whole dog world to come together and ask the big why and what if questions that will shape the dogs of the future. Join me, Hannah Molloy, as we chat to some of the world's most groundbreaking professionals intent on enriching and evolving the future of dogs. This podcast is in association with Animal Behaviour, my online learning video library for dog owners and dog geeks. Big thanks to my dog's favourite food and our Season 1 sponsor, Nature's Menu. With over 40 years in the pet food business, Nature's Menu is Europe's leading expert in raw and natural pet food. So let's jump into the conversation. Welcome to the Future of Dogs, episode 1, hosted by me, Hannah Molloy, and today co-hosted by the most beautiful and glamorous Anita Lang.
Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Anita.
I'm your friend Anita Lang.
That's true. And you are easily distracted by dogs.
I am. I've got a t-shirt that proves it.
It's true.
I'm wearing it right now.
We have a combined love for dogs, don't we, together?
We do. And I have the privilege of joining you on your first episode, and I am doing the takeover. So yes. Hannah, sit back, relax.
Love it.
And let me ask you some questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
So why on earth are we here? I know a little bit about why we're here, but the Future of Dogs is a very broad title. What on earth do you want to bring to the listeners? Like, why will I, in the future, on my walks, listen to this podcast? What do you want to say?
It's a bold thing, isn't it, to state, I'm going to show you what the future of dogs looks like. And we will, actually. This is the key. You know, my background is in animal behaviour, and I'm a big believer in chatting about and challenging and creating space for questioning behaviour, really. I'm a behaviour geek because I'm a scientist, and I think that the question why is beautiful and doesn't need to be covered with so much sort of fear and anxiety. I think sometimes if you challenge a behavioural norm, there can be a lot of resistance and fear to change. And, you know, if we think about some of the most amazing inventors, I'm thinking Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, if we just go straight into that movie and just imagine I've been stolen in a little shed and put in a room with lots of other inventors. You know, all of those people are trying to fix a problem, and they do that by just trying something new a little bit. Just, well, what if we do this? Oh, okay, that broke it. What if we do this? Oh, that made it a bit better. Yeah. And I think with all science and invention, the creating space to play with variables is super important. So that's what I'd really love to do with the Future of Dogs. It's an attempt to tour through where we've been, where we are, and where we could go in the dog world if we could craft a sort of collective dream and then work together to champion and change the way that we care for dogs. Because they're man's best friend, aren't they?
They are. That's amazing. That sounds so cool.
It's a bit big.
I also really like the fact that you don't just look at a problem. Being a scientist and a dog geek, you don't just look at a problem and go, oh, isn't that a shame? We have a problem. We have to deal with it. We have to put up with it. You go, oh, wow. So there's a problem. Why? What can we do about it? Can it change in the future? Does it always have to be that way? Yeah. And I love the fact that there are people like you, and I think your guests in the future of this podcast are going to include people who share that kind of way of thinking. I love that. I really, really love that. I think it's going to be really important. So,
and you know, I think that's the thing is, when we start to ask the question why, what we're really going to do on the Future of Dogs is step back into that sort of childlike awe and wonder in the joy of asking why and what if. Why do we do that thing that we do? When did we start to do it? Like, why is it still useful for us to do? Is it behaviour that we want to continue to do? And if we don't want to do it that way, then what are we going to do instead? I don't think we've ever really had a sort of collective conversation about what the future of dogs could look like on a global sort of platform. You know, when I came out of uni, I have a degree in animal behaviour, and when I stepped out of uni, there were loads of different strategies for conserving a myriad of different animals, and that, you know, you hear about the conservation strategy for pandas, or you hear about it for, you know, mollusks even have a conservation strategy. We're very careful about things like newts, and global populations of even sections of wildlife are carefully managed. And I looked at the domesticated dog and I was like, oh, what is the conservation strategy for dogs? Like, what are we trying to do with the domesticated dog?
Yeah.
And so my heart will always be directed towards shifting our culture away from blame and shame. And the dog world is full of so many passionate individuals that love dogs and are trying to change something in their industry. But also the narrative online, it can get quite antagonistic, because sometimes you're asking whether or not someone's field or the way that they do something is in inverted commas right or wrong. I think we just need to get rid of those labels and just say, actually, what are we trying to achieve with dogs? Have we got a plan? If we haven't got a plan, should we have one? Is that important? Otherwise we could just breed, you know, 9-legged dogs with tentacles and several faces, and or just dogs who've become like mathematicians and can code and drive cars. And, you know, I'm taking the mickey a bit, but, you know, if we don't have a plan, I think a lot of the time we can end up creating problems for ourselves behaviourally.
Okay. I'd like to ask you, where did it all start for you? Where did your love of dogs come from? What are your earliest memories with dogs?
Yes, good question. So I think when I was a baby, I met my first dog at 18 months old, and I have a beautiful scar across my nose in a dog mouth shape from that interaction. And it was not the dog's fault. You know, I had an 8-year-old brother who was backing a car down a drive, so my parents were distracted trying to avert one childlike drama. And so they left me with a rescue dog, and this dog bit me. Now, it's a tricky story, that, because for a lot of people, a child being bitten by a dog is such a hugely emotive topic. And I have to say, as a bite victim, you might say, I really feel for the dog. I mean, I always have. It obviously hasn't made a huge difference to the way that I feel about dogs long term. It's made me, if anything, more curious and interested in them. But that dog didn't kill me because she didn't ever want to. She never intended to kill me. No. She did what any female dog would do, which is roll me over and say, "Stop it. Hey, puppy, stop poking me. I'm a dog. It's not okay." So she used her mouth because she has no hands. And she said, stop that. And, you know, naturally she lost her life because she bit a baby. And so it's a complicated story that I'm just, you know, probably was brought up a little bit thinking, I don't think that was that dog's fault. I think that's really hard. And I don't think it's ever a dog's fault, is it? When things go wrong between dogs and humans, you're not going to shout at a 5-year-old carrying a gun for shooting somebody. You're not going to put that child on trial. No. It's not their fault. They shouldn't have. How did the child get the gun? You know, so there's definitely that made a huge impact on me, maybe at a subconscious level. Yeah. But I didn't think I wanted to be a dog trainer. I didn't think the world needed another dog trainer. You know, I had a dog when I was 12, and he walked me through all of the teenage angst that many of us go through. And he was my very close buddy when my parents were separating. And so we formed a super strong bond there. Yeah. And then, I went to uni to study animal behaviour because I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. My parents were like, "What do you want to do for a living? You could do anything you want." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to be a dolphin trainer. That's the coolest job in the world. I'm going to do that."
It's so funny because I used to say that as a joke. It is, like, even recently I've said that as a joke.
It's the classic,
right? To be a dolphin trainer.
Yeah. It's the chat up line that every guy gives when they're like, what's the coolest job ever? It's true though.
What happened to that dream?
Well, I came out of uni and watched a documentary called Blackfish that was about SeaWorld and some of the training techniques that happen there. And I could see that industry was in a place of flux. And I also did the maths and went, I'd have to live very far away because I'm in the UK, and, you know, unless you want to stand on the cliffs and watch dolphins through binoculars, you're not getting very much dolphin work in the UK. So, and then I came across this charity called Medical Detection Dogs, and Oh, wow. They had just published their study. So they'd just become a charity.
Yeah.
And they did a study in 2004 and they became a charity in 2008. And that's just when I graduated. So I read this study and discovered that it had been proved that dogs could smell cancer with their noses.
Wow.
And I was just blown away by this. I had one of those epiphanies of time, when you just suddenly, if that equals that equals that. And I just saw dogs and humans walking together for like 20,000 years, just paired, hanging out consistently, such that dogs have physically got a piece of equipment on their body that can smell our biochemistry.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And the dogs in the study were doing it before any human test could prove that it was there.
Wow.
Just amazing.
It's mind-blowing.
And then the dogs are sensitive enough to turn to the human and say, "Excuse me, friend, I think I need to tell you, you have this problem. I don't think you know that it's there." And they kept, nosing it, licking it, sniffing it, obsessing about this area on so many people that it became a study. In the 1980s, loads of owners had come forward and said, "I think my dog is detecting my cancer." And in the 80s, scientists were like, "Yeah, they can see ghosts as well, can't they?" Yeah, sure. So it took 20 years more for the scientific community to go, there might be something in this. And what we need is a dog trainer and some scientists to get together. And, Dr. Claire Guest did that and proved that it was possible. And that the humans are sensitive enough to say, "I think my dog is trying to tell me something." All of that story just made me go, oh my gosh. And I just fell in love with dogs in a real deep, respectful. And then I started looking at the dog world. And that's a big word. You're probably like, what is the dog world?
Yeah. We've heard your credentials. We've heard your history. We've heard how you first encountered a dog and fell in love with dogs. So what is it that brings us to now and doing this podcast? And you say you've seen man and dog walk alongside each other. What is it that you see in that relationship that has gone astray potentially? And maybe you'd like to see and ask the question, could we bring that back onto a more favourable path, on a path that adds to both humans and dogs' well-being? That'd be a good way to ask the question.
Yeah. So okay. So from my observation, as I say, I went into the field as an animal behaviourist, and the thing that I love about animal behaviour is that it's black and white. It's not about right and wrong. When we look at studying behaviour, we think of things in terms of functional or non-functional behaviour. So it's either useful to us or it's not useful to us. So when I stepped into looking at the dog world, which is huge, it's vast and complex. There's like passionate, game-changing experts that are changing the future of dogs. So we're talking about dog owners the world over, amazing breeders, like rescue dog heroes, vet staff, trainers, groomers, pet shop owners, pet food and nutrition experts. Our sponsors, Nature's Menu, for example, the dog walkers, the dog sport champions, the ringcraft kings and queens. Oh my gosh, researchers, scientists, charities. It's so vast, the dog world, right? Right the way up to government and the UK, even our royalty. We are all just totally mad about dogs. Yeah. And when we start looking at human behaviour through the eye of an animal behaviourist, it's so much more calming. Because we can start to say, well, that's functional and that's not functional, okay? We practice things that are functional. It's as simple as that. So I would love us to just journey down this route. And ultimately, over time, me and many of the scientists have just become more and more fascinated with the dog's environment. Yeah. Because we're their environment, and it's really hard for us to change our behaviour unless we start by looking at it, recognising it, and then start talking to, and that's the point of this podcast, some of the people in the world who have seen something within their area, within their metron, their area of expertise that they want to change.
Okay.
So we're going to talk to industry experts from a range of places, vets. We're going to talk to clinical psychologists. We're going to talk to groomers and all sorts of different professionals. at different levels of the dog world and ask them, where has that industry been? Where is it now? And what could the future look like if we followed them down their particular brand of what if?
Okay.
So I just can't wait. I'm really excited to talk to some of these geeks, really. I love a geek. Some people don't like the word. I love the word. I'm a self-professed dog geek, quite happy to be so. Yeah, the future of dogs could look like whatever we decide it could look like. But until we start going into these conversations and looking at our behaviour and the way that we respond to dogs and how we're breeding them, how we're training them, how we're marketing them, how we're sharing them on Instagram and social media, like, what do we want the future of dogs to look like? That's the question.
Yeah. So do your listeners get to input into this? So do they get to say, I've got a dog and he does this and I prefer him to do that, or I've got this issue. Can they feedback? Can they make suggestions of what they want to hear, guests they want to hear speaking, topics they want to discuss?
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to expand this conversation. Personally, I think everybody's voice is valuable to this conversation. The guests that we're going to have on, you might not agree with them. They might say things that you're like, wow, I just totally disagree with everything that you're about. And that is so fine. I really want you to still be able to come and bring that perspective. I also want us to be able to learn to navigate listening to people we disagree with love, because I think that is a skill that culturally we all need to start to step into over the next 10, 20 years, is to be able to hold space for people that we disagree with, but we still love them, we still respect who they are as a human being, even if they're doing and saying things that were totally different to us. So you can jump on Facebook and on Instagram and on YouTube and just search the Future of Dogs podcast, and you can chat with us. I can't wait to hear your perspectives, to suggest topics. And each episode that you're going to listen to will be titled slightly differently. So the next episode you will hear is the Future of Dog Conversations. So they're going to be nice, short, bite conversations with incredible specialists, potentially broken into part 1 and part 2, just so that you can listen to them on the way to work, or as you're walking the dog, or going out for a jog, or just taking a little bit of a lunch break. So they're going to be nice, easy conversations that you can just jump into and out of again.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So exciting.
It's very exciting.
Thank you so much, Anita, for helping us to navigate the beginning of this incredible journey. And I just want to lovingly invite all of you as listeners to join me on this journey, because I fundamentally believe that, dogs are our species. We have totally controlled their evolution, their shape, their size, and their form, such that in this generation, we are their natural habitat. And the future of dogs seeks to improve this very unnatural habitat that we've created for dogs in the 21st century. We want to look at where we've been, where we are right now, where we could go, and shape informed decisions that we could all be making with the help of some of the world's biggest experts. So I can't wait to chew over some of these questions and cultural norms and get a cup of tea and a biscuit and enjoy it.
That sounds amazing. I'll also bring a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If you could bring the packet, that would be...
Okay, that's fine. And I'll continue to show you memes for you to point out the behaviour in them.
I'm a spoiler, aren't I? I can't help it. I'm so sorry, Ania. I ruin memes for most dog owners and dog lovers.
Dog fans. Mm-hmm.
I can't help it. The dogs are speaking. I see dog people. It's as simple as that.
It's interesting. I'm a massive meme fan, and I share them with my friend Hannah, who has a great sense of humour, and we laugh together about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But I see the behaviourist in her, who picks out what could be potentially being experienced by that animal in that place. And that's been an amazing thing to witness, because without even realising, I suddenly can, as a non-dog professional, pick up on dogs who aren't comfortable, or dogs who look, like they're experiencing a certain emotion. Mm. And it's been really helpful to me. And I'm just an ordinary person, doesn't work in the dog world. And I get to see what you do and what you understand, and it helps inform my behaviour around dogs, which is, I think, so important, and probably what you want people who aren't dog professionals to get from a podcast like this, or get from your book, for example. What's my dog thinking?
Yeah, I didn't even mention that, but I'm terrible at self-promotion. Actually. So guys, I wrote a book about dog behaviour and body language called What's My Dog Thinking? It's beautiful. It's an illustrated guide.
It's beautiful.
And it was put together by Dorling Kindersley, who are internationally renowned publishers. Great. They have translated it into multiple languages. You can get it in the US, you can get it in Australia, you can get it in Spanish, you can get it in a couple of other languages as well. Pretty sure it's in German, maybe Finnish. I think I've seen it in as well. Niche.
Very niche.
And, you know, I just love talking about, body language and behaviour is my bread and butter. I really think when I first started working with dogs, it was in a major UK charity, and I realised that people just didn't understand how to read posture. And I was like, okay, I could fight fire for the rest of my life. And, you know, we'll talk in one of these episodes about the narrative of adopt, don't shop, which I think is valuable to help people get rescue dogs. But actually, I realised in rescue, we don't know how to read dogs at all. And that needs to be a priority, I think, across the world. We need to learn how to read dog body language. So many clients come to me with dogs that are, stressing out, or they have learned to become aggressive because people are like, oh, he was playing and he was fine and now he's not fine. And I'm like, okay, maybe he wasn't fine when we thought he was fine, you know? And I totally get and love dearly the learning journey we all go on in this area. Because when the dawn of the internet occurred, I saw this little video of a polar bear. And it was dancing, right? And it was like, one of the first memes at the dawn of the internet. Soon I will sound so old to those who have only ever known the internet generation. But this polar bear was doing a little sort of 4-step around in a circle like a break dancer. And he was like, and they put some music on the background. So it was like, bow, 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 bow. And the polar bear was dancing, and I thought that's hilarious. But then it took a couple beats, and then because this has been my heart, it's my gifting, I was like, but why is he doing that? That's not normal behavior for a polar bear. And then you scope out and you go, okay, that's a polar bear in captivity, and he is walking around in circles because he's going mad, because he can't walk as he's supposed to. He can't break through ice like he's supposed to because he's in a zoo. And that was the first time I had my own meme spoiled by my own brain. Thanks, brain. But useful, right? Because you're like, oh, I don't want to laugh at that. That's not okay. It's a really unhappy animal. And but also, I get it. We're all learning, and none of us want to laugh at people who are in pain or animals who are in pain. I think sometimes we just don't know any better, because we're like, look, the dog is smiling and is showing his teeth next to this baby, and you're like, okay, that dog is baring its teeth and it might bite that baby. So as much as you think that's a super cute picture, can we just rewind and remember what dogs use to communicate? So man, sorry not sorry that I am a meme spoiler for the whole universe.
But it's amazing, because this is a podcast for people who love dogs and work with dogs. So what I've realized is it doesn't take a lot to understand dogs to realize that difference between a dog who I perceive to be smiling, that dog isn't actually happy. So it's not actually incredibly difficult to learn how to pick up accurately on their behavior. And which dog owner, dog lover wouldn't want to know how their dog is feeling and how to make their life better? We love dogs. We buy them outfits. We buy them toys. We play with them. We do so much for them. Why would we not want them? Yeah, we put pugs on mugs.
Pugs on mugs. And this is not my favourite, really, because actually, there's a lot of pug love. Got nothing against pugs as people, as dog people. But actually, we've gone crazy with pug love when it comes to, making bags and everything. Everything is made of pugs, and there's, we don't see that there's any problem with it until everybody wants a pug, and then pugs are bred and can't breathe, and we'll get into all of that.
Yes, we'll get into all that. But just for the listeners, Hannah's drinking her coffee from a pug
A pug mug.
A mug with a pug face on it. Just to explain that. But yeah, I'm so excited because I think you're empowering people to understand their best friend. And that is such a good use of our time.
Absolutely.
Such a good use of your time and our time in listening. So I'm excited.
I'm excited. Thank you so much, Anita, for
having me.
This. It's good. I'm sure you'll be back. Next time I need to talk to myself, I'm like, right, Anita. Might just be in the kitchen later on after this podcast. Anita, I've had a good monologue. Come in here.
Come and break it up.
So yeah, if you have enjoyed this starter for 10 and you actually want a bit of a main course and to hear some of our incredible guests, please do like and subscribe on whatever you listen and consume your podcasts on. You can check us out, as I said, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube if you just search The Future of Dogs podcast. And you can find us on Buzzsprout. So that is our official website, Buzzsprout, thefutureofdogs.buzzsprout.com. I've been Hannah Molloy, and you can find out more about all of my educational principles and lovely, delicious courses on amplifiedbehaviour.com.
I've been Anita Lang. I highly rate this website. Please go and look at it.
She is easily distracted by dogs.
Yeah, I am easily distracted by dogs. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.